Dear brothers and sisters, let us continue the book reading Reality at Dawn, written by Babuji Maharaj, chapter Spiritual Training. Most of the people have in some way or the other a natural inclination towards God, yet those who succeed in realizing God are very rare. The cause is defective guidance and wrong training, which leads a man away from the real path with a result that he is lost forever. Now, for a man of ordinary capacity, it is pretty hard task to judge whether his training is rightly directed or not. A man tamely and unquestioningly follows the instructions of one whom he has accepted as his guru and practices as he is required by him to do. It is very difficult for him to ascertain whether he is being guided along the right path or not. This is a great problem before the people who are themselves quite ignorant in matters concerning realization. You will find numerous teachers of religion who will tell you not to eat garlic, onion, or carrot and insist upon you to adopt sadhanas and practice which have no real significance, or 100 other such triflings which will never lead you even a step nearer to reality. This is no training. Such teachers are really deceiving themselves as well as those whom they teach. You must be sure that unless internal peace, calmness of mind, simplicity and lightness follows us as the natural result of your practice, you are proceeding on the wrong lines and that your training is defective. Here, Babuji Maharaj is emphasizing on the proper way of training. Most of the people in this world, or some or the other way, inclined towards God. Still, they are not successful in realizing God. Very few are successful in realizing God. Why? Because of the defective guidance and wrong training by their gurus. This defective guidance and wrong training leads a man away from the real path, as a result of which he is lost forever. So we should be very careful while selecting a guru and practicing a system. So further Babuji Maharaj is saying, now for a man of ordinary capacity, generally for the people who are having a limited knowledge about the spirituality and spiritual training, for them it is a pretty hard task to judge whether the training of his guru is in a proper direction or not. And that person, without even questioning his guru for anything, for any task, he will simply follow the instructions of his guru, whom he accepted as his guru, and simply follows the practices advised by his gurus. For such people, it is very difficult to ascertain whether they are moving in a right direction and whether their training is correct and whether the guru selected by them is capable of taking them up to that level. So this is a great problem what the general public or a common man face when he is wishing to travel in the path of his spiritual journey. So Here in this world, we find numerous teachers of religion. They will suggest and tell the people not to eat garlic, onion, or carrot, and they will insist them to do the sadhanas and practices which are very tough and have no real significance. Even after following that sadhana and doing it for 100 times, one cannot move even an inch towards the realization of God. That's what Babaji Maharaj is saying. This is because of the wrong training. And such teachers they are deceiving themselves as well as the people whom they teach. So, one must be sure enough that unless one gets that internal peace, calmness of mind, simplicity and lightness as the natural result of his practice, then he is proceeding in a wrong direction. That means after practicing a spiritual system, we should develop that internal peace within us, that calmness of mind, and the simplicity and the lightness in a natural way. It should creep within us naturally as a result of our sadhana. If it is not so, then the method of practice is not correct, or we are not practicing the correct method in a correct way. So, those are all the two factors. So, let us read further. Methods of spiritual training commonly adopted by most of the teachers today are based on hard and fast rules which often do not correspond with our worldly life. Hence, in most cases, they prove to be impracticable for those leading a worldly life. Generally, teachers induce people to practice restraint by adopting a particular form of living disconnected with worldly concerns and to practice devotion for hours together. Evidently, such a type of training is not meant for people in general who cannot dissociate themselves from worldly ties or devote so much time to their devotional exercises. It is for this reason that their preachings do not produce the desired effect, and in spite of their best efforts, they fail to mold them accordingly. The fact is that they are more theoretical than practical. Is it ever possible for the masses to renounce the world for sake of liberation? Certainly not. What good then do the common people derive from their teachings? Some of them are even bold enough to proclaim their mistaken notion that higher attainments in spirituality are not possible in a grihastha, ashram, or household life. It really means that they have nothing to impart to the common people except telling them certain superficial things, such as frequent bath in the Ganges, feeding the fishes with flour pills, or reading the scriptures over and over again. The real problems before us is not to provide means for the spiritual training of a chosen few who have renounced the world, but of people in general whose duties in the world, besides devotional, are manifold and which they cannot safely ignore. They in fact fail in their duty if they neglect any of them. To them, it is essential that their spiritual as well as worldly life must go side by side, equally resplendent, and for this we have to discover the right means. Here Babaji Maharaj is explaining us about the spiritual training methods. Usually, The spiritual methods commonly adopted by most of the teachers today are based on hard and fast rules. They are very much tough and difficult to follow also. So, based on the hard and fast rules, which often do not correspond with our worldly life, isn't it? Because we people are grihasthas and we lead a family life. We have the responsibility of our family. We have to take care of our family, children, and also sometimes our friends and relatives. So, in such cases, following such strict rules and a system is not at all possible for a common person. Generally, teachers induce people to practice restraint by adopting a particular form of living, disconnecting themselves completely with the worldly concerns, and to practice devotion for hours together. Is it possible for us to practice the devotion hours together? No, it is not practically possible. So, evidently, such a type of training is not meant for people in general who cannot dissociate themselves from the worldly ties or devote so much of time to their devotional exercise, isn't it? So, it is for this reason that the preachings of so called gurus will not produce the desired effect on the disciples, and in spite of their best efforts, they fail to mold them internally accordingly. What is the reason? The fact is that they are more theoretical than practical. That means they have not experienced all those conditions what they are explaining to the masses. Just they have learnt it through books and they are now disclosing it before the people. So it is ever possible for the masses to renounce the world for the sake of liberation? Babaji Maharaj is asking us. No, it is not at all possible. So, what good then do the common people derive from their teachings? If it is not possible to follow such a strict method or rules, then how it is useful for the common people? How it will do good for them? Some of them are even bold enough to proclaim that the higher attainments in spirituality is not possible for a grihastha. Some gurus will proclaim these statements. So they have to renounce from this grihastha ashram or household life. So for we people it is not possible. So it is really means that they have nothing to impart to the common people except telling them to take bath in Ganges and feeding fishes with the floor pills and reading the scriptures over again and again. That's it. So if we do all these things, whether we can achieve or attain the God realization, no, it is not possible at all. So the real problem before us is not to provide means for the spiritual training of a chosen few who have renounced the world, but of people in general whose duties in the world besides devotional are manifold and which they cannot safely ignore. So for the people who are having devotion in their heart, they should also be trained in such a way that they realize God. That should be the method of training, and that is the proper way of training also. So, if anyone who is traveling in his spiritual path, if he ignores his family, it is not correct. And if he ignores his spiritual practice for the sake of his family, that is also not correct. So then, for a spiritual practitioner, both are equally important, and it should go hand in hand, just like two wings of a bird. So the bird can fly in the sky only if it flies with two wings, and it can never fly in the sky with a single wing. Similarly, for we people who are pursuing our practice in our spiritual path, both spirituality and our family are important. We should do both the duties with equal interest and respect as the sacred duty of our master. So, for this, proper training and a capable master is needed. So, with this, dear brethren, let us conclude today's satsang and let us know more aspects in the forthcoming satsang. Till then, I take leave. Pranams. Namaste.